Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Translations and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachardane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Devi Shatarani. So we are on the Adi-lila, chapter 5, the glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram. And we are in the purport of text 22. And we are about halfway through this purport. We're at the paragraph on page 439 in my book, which starts Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll just dig into this here. So go ahead.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam also describes how yogis can travel to all the planets in the universe. When the vital force is lifted to the cerebrum, there is every chance that this force will burst out from the eyes, nose, ears, etc. As these are the places that are known to be seventh orbit of the vital force. But the yogis can block these holes by complete suspension of air. The yogi then concentrates the vital force in the middle position, that is between eyebrows. At this position, the yogi can think of the planet to which he wants to go after leaving the body. He can then decide whether he wants to go to the abode of Krishna in the transcendental Vaikunthas, from which he will not be required to descend into the material world, or to travel higher planets in the material universe. The perfect yogi is at liberty to do either.
Interesting, right? Yeah, so this purport is to the verse Chintamani Prakara Sadmashikalpa Vriksha, where it's describing the spiritual world. It's describing Goloka, Krishna's personal abode, which is full of spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of desire trees, where Govinda, Krishna, lives and is served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. So now Prabhupada is talking about how people get to that place, right? How does a soul get to that spiritual world? And it's very interesting that he's talking about this. So in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it talks about the yoga process and how yogis can actually go back to Godhead by yoga. And their process is a little different than the devotees. But they do this yoga, they elevate the prana and they bring it up to the top of the head, and then they focus their attention between the eyebrows, and the soul goes bursting out of the cerebellum, the hole in the top death, like controlling the time when the soul leaves the body, like willfully basically leaving the body, and being very intentional about where you want to go, and meditating with deep focus and concentration on that place. Then if that place they're meditating on is Krishna Loka, they can go to Krishna Loka. So there you go.
But all the universe, they want to go, they can go. They
Okay,
have liberty to do either.
yeah. Would you like to read, Divya, the next paragraph for the perfect yogi? Did you find it already? Otherwise, I'll read and give you some time. For the perfect yogi who has attained success in the method of leaving his body in perfect consciousness, transferring from one planet to another is as easy as an ordinary man's walking to the grocery store. Pretty crazy. Okay, so how does an ordinary man walk to the grocery store? He decides, I want to go to the grocery store, and he sets his intention, he puts his goal on that, and he just aims himself in the direction of the grocery store and starts moving. So The yogi, the same thing. He decides I'm going to Vaikuntha or to Goloka, and he focuses his energy in that direction. He sets that as his goal, and he starts moving in the right direction. As already discussed, the material body is just a covering of the spiritual soul. Mind and intelligence are the undercoverings, and the gross body of earth, water, air, and so on is the overcoating of the soul. As such, any advanced soul who has realized himself by the yoga process, who knows the relationship between matter and spirit, can leave the gross dress of the soul in perfect order and as he desires. By the grace of God, we have complete freedom. Because the Lord is kind to us, we can live anywhere, either in the spiritual sky or in the material sky, upon whichever planet we desire. However, misuse of this freedom causes one to fall down into the material world and suffer the threefold miseries of conditioned life. The living of a miserable life in the material world by dint of the soul's choice is nicely illustrated by Milton in Paradise Lost. Similarly, by choice, the soul can regain paradise and return home back to Godhead. Yeah, so what we're hearing a lot about in this purport is how powerful the soul is, right? We were hearing about how the soul is more powerful than the sun. And now we're hearing about the soul by his desire can either go to the material world or go to the spiritual world, that we have complete freedom. And it's just a question of knowledge and will. And we can basically go anywhere, do anything that we want. That's what he says, right?
Yes, we need to have that strong will.
Yeah. Either the spiritual sky upon whichever planet we desire. We can live anywhere. So the reason that we're here is because we desired it.
Yes.
We wanted to be here. I wanted this body. I wanted to be born in this country. I wanted to, whatever. And so we can change all that by changing our desire, right?
Just our desire.
Yeah. Okay. Divya, did you find the place?
I did. Is it 522?
Yeah, but it's do you know where we are in the purport? At the critical time of death?
Which it starts with at the critical.
Yeah.
Let me just find it. Wow, this is long.
Yeah.
Yes, I found it.
Okay.
Okay. At the critical time of death, one can place the vital force between the two eyebrows and decide where he wants to go. If he is reluctant to maintain any connection with the material world, he can, in less than a second, reach the transcendental abode of Vaikuntha and appear there completely in his spiritual body, which will be suitable for him in the spiritual atmosphere. He has simply to desire to leave the material world, both in finer and in grosser forms, and then move the vital force to the topmost part of the skull and leave the body from the hole in the skull called the Brahmarandra. This is easy for one perfect in the practice of yoga. Of course, man is endowed with free will, and as such, if he does not want to free himself from the material world, he may enjoy the life of Brahmapad, occupation of the post of Brahma, and visit Siddhaloka, the planets of materially perfect beings who have full capacities to control gravity, space, and time. To visit these higher planets in the material universe, one need not give up his mind and intelligence, finer matter, but need only give up grosser matter in the material body.
Okay, you can pause there. So yeah, it reminds me of that description in the second canto that we used to call taking the tourist route, taking the scenic route back to Godhead. So the yogi has this option that if they want to visit the higher planets on their way, so they're qualified to go back to Godhead, but they have a desire to see the higher planets. And so they can actually go to those higher planets and they stay for some time. They can visit Tapaloka, they can visit Janaloka, they can go to Siddhaloka, and they go to Maharloka. And so some of those planets, some of the higher planets at the time of the partial devastation, they are annihilated. So it's described there in the Bhagavatam that they can stay there until the time of the partial annihilation, And just when the whole thing is about to burst into flames, then they leave. They leave that planet and then they go to the higher planet which is not annihilated at the time of the partial annihilation. They go to Brahmaloka. So they go to the highest planet in the material universe, Brahmaloka, and then they stay there until Brahma leaves his body. And when Lord Brahma leaves his body, then all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka
They go.
go with him. They all go back to Godhead together, holding hands and singing Kumbaya. I mean, singing Hare Krishna.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Middle.
yeah, but whenever I read that in second canto, I was thinking, why would anyone do that? Why would you like
522.
delay your journey back to Krishna just to see the material world? But some people want to visit those planets. And Krishna said, Prabhupada is writing that to visit those higher planets, you don't need to give up your mind and intelligence. So you need to leave your material, your gross body, but you keep your mind and intelligence. So basically, the same way, when the soul transmigrates from one body to another, the soul leaves the gross body, but the mind and the subtle body stays and carries the soul to its next destination, to its next material body. And so we're born again into a new body from a different mother and father in a totally different situation, but we have the same mind.
But same mindset.
Yeah, all of our thoughts and feelings and memories of all of our previous past lifetimes, all of our desires and aspirations and all of our, whatever, trials and traumas and triumphs, they go with us. So that's why suicide doesn't work. The only thing you get rid of by committing suicide is your gross body. But then if you didn't change your karma, then the same karma that led you to have that body is going to lead you to have a similar one. So what we really need to do is change our consciousness. And when we change our consciousness, when we purify our mind and intelligence, then we can really have a positive change in our existence.
Here it says,
What?
find in grosser forms.
Yeah.
We have to get the material both in finer and the grosser form.
Yeah, to go back to the spiritual world.
Finer means
The subtle body, yeah. And I thought it interesting the way Prabhupada says, if one is reluctant to maintain any connection to the material world, he can, in less than a second, reach the transcendental abode of Vaikuntha. If we're just reluctant, we don't have to be disgusted with the world. We don't have to it doesn't make it seem like we have to be totally free from all material attachments. But if you're just reluctant to maintain any connection with the material world, like time of death, and you're just like, you know what? I don't think it's a good idea coming back here and having another material body. I don't want to go through this again. I think it would be better for me to go to the spiritual world and be a soul and serve Krishna. Then in a second, you're just there. He says he says he simply has to have the desire to leave the material world. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Do you want to read, Daniel?
Yeah, 23.
No, we're still, it's a long purport. We're on each and every planet. Oh, Kritika, are you there in the spot where we are?
Yes.
Everybody's lost in the purport. Go ahead, please.
Each and every planet has its particular atmosphere, and if one wants to travel to any particular planet within the material universe, one has to adapt his body to the climatic condition of that planet. For instance, if one wants to go from India to Europe, where the climatic condition is different, one has to change his dress accordingly. Similarly, a complete change of body is necessary if one wants to go to the transcendental planets of Vaikuntha. However, if one wants to go to the higher material planets, he can keep his finer dress of mind, intelligence, and ego, but has to leave his gross dress body made of earth, water, fire, etc. When one goes to a transcendental planet, it is necessary to change both the finer and gross bodies, for one has to reach the spiritual sky completely in a spiritual form. This change of dress will take place automatically at the time of death if one so desires.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, Prabhupada gives this nice analogy that if you're like, um, Yeah, if you're in a cold country, you're wearing your jackets and your socks and your boots and your hat and your scarf and all that, and then you go to a hot country, you get on a plane, then you're not gonna be wearing those clothes, all those warm clothes and things. So just like when we go from one place to another where the environment is very different, then we change our clothes. So when we go to a different planet where the environment is very different, then we have to change our bodies, our gross bodies. But as long as we're in the material world, we keep our subtle body. But if we want to go to the spiritual world, then even the subtle body is inappropriate. It's inappropriate dress. Doesn't work. So in the spiritual world, we can't bring any material thing, including our material minds. Only spiritual body will work there. So yeah, so on different planets like here, the Earth is basically like 70% water and 30% land, right? And our bodies also are like 70% water and 30% other elements, right? Earth elements, basically. So whatever planet we're living on, we get a body that's basically more or less constituted in the same way that the planet is, so that we can exist in the atmosphere of this planet. So if we go to, if you want to live on the sun, you have to get a body that's made of fire. Yeah, there are cities and communities and, all kinds of things on the sun, but the sun people, they all have bodies made out of fire. The fire is the predominant element of their body, just like water is a predominant. They're probably on the sun thinking, right, the little kids and going to school in the sun, they're like, how do people live with a body made out of water? And just like mainly water, don't they just slush into a puddle? Don't they just evaporate into the air? Like, how can you live like that? And so we're thinking, how can you live with a body made out of fire? Don't you just burn up everything you touch? Right. So it's all very inconceivable, but that's what it is. And then so when we go to the spiritual world, we need a body that's made out of spirit, because that's the atmosphere there. So it's very logical. Okay. Sneha, did you find the place? Are you able to read? Or are you busy with something else? All right, Pragati's got it.
When one goes to a
Next.
Next paragraph.
The Bhagavad Gita confirms that one will attain his next material body according to his desire at the time he leaves his body. The desire of the mind carries the soul to a suitable atmosphere as the wind carries aromas from one place to another. Unfortunately, those who are not yogis but gross materialists who throughout their lives indulge in sense gratification are puzzled by the disarrangement of the bodily and mental condition at the time of death. Such gross sensualists, encumbered by the main ideas, desires, and associations of the lives they have led, desire something against their interest and thus foolishly take on new bodies that perpetuate their material miseries.
Yeah, so they don't have information about this. So this information that we get, this is this is basic Bhagavad Gita, is that we're souls inside a body that's made of gross matter and subtle matter, and that we need, at the time of death, the soul transmigrates into a different body depending on our consciousness. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. The desire of the mind carries the soul to a suitable atmosphere according to the desire, just like the wind carries aroma. So it's our desire that carries us to another body. So then we have to be careful, like we have to control the mind and make sure that we desire something that's actually beneficial for us, right? Because a lot of people, they desire things that are not in their best interest, as Prabhupada's saying. They desire to, whatever, people desire all kinds of crazy stuff in the material world, and then they end up in a crazy material situation. And then they wonder why they're suffering. So this knowledge is very, very empowering and important for us to be able to determine our destination after death. Okay. All right. I'll read a little bit. Systematic training of the mind and intelligence is therefore needed, so that at the time of death one may consciously desire a suitable body, either on this planet or another material planet, or even a transcendental planet. A civilization that does not consider the progressive advancement of the immortal soul merely fosters a bestial life of ignorance. Yeah, Prabhupada is just laying it out here, telling it as it is. Prabhupada would be like so disgusted, with the whole educational system in the West, that there's so many universities and they have all lists, so many different majors, that you can get your degree in, but there's not a single department or degree that is knowledge of the soul. So it's like
The theology also doesn't come under spirituality.
yeah, it's not actually theology is like an academic study of like people's religious beliefs, but it's not, no one's teaching like
Yeah.
this is the way that you can elevate yourself spiritually and raise your consciousness and, attain the goal of life. Because that would be, I mean, maybe if you go to like, a seminary or something where they're teaching you to be a priest or a missionary or something like that. But generally, like there's no public university that does that for sure. It probably would be illegal in this country because of separation of church and state kind of
But
thing.
that's what I usually think. Even if it is theology, it doesn't come under spirituality.
Yeah. It's just an academic study of,
Yeah.
okay, this religion, this is the history of this religion, these are the saints, these are their biographies, this is what they taught, this is what they believe, this is what happened to them. It's very like historical and philosophical, but it's not intended to,
Intended for the body to
yeah. So it's a whole civilization. It's a problem with our societies that it's a whole civilization that doesn't consider the progressive advancement of the immortal soul. What to do, right? And then, yeah, even and the reason that they don't, because I mean, institutions like universities and things, they're there to make money, right? So they're basically offering what sells, just like you go into a store. Like today I just went over to the Temple College Anji gift shop, and I asked if she would put some of my Living Gita books there to sell. And then she said, we'll keep them here for, I don't know, a certain amount of time. And if they don't sell, we'll just give them back to you. Right? Otherwise, they're just taking space. So like the thing is that, you offer what people are going to buy. If people aren't buying it, you stop offering it.
Yeah.
So people are not interested in their own personal elevation, which is crazy, which is like the craziest thing ever. Like the most important thing, the thing that actually is benefiting you eternally, not just some, temporary little sense gratification, but this is the whole purpose of this creation, the purpose of our existence in this world. And nobody's interested. To the extent that, yeah, universities stopped teaching those things because actually, like, yeah, Rita Nanarj was saying that almost all the old universities, they started off being seminaries. They were started actually by the church
Yes.
to teach people in biblical studies and things like that. And then because as time went by, people were not so interested in those things, they started offering other subjects just to, diversify, to try to get people in the door and attract people to study and get an education, and hopefully at least learn some of the seminary, topics. And then gradually it just got watered down so much that it just got totally secularized. Yeah. So it's everything except everything but that. And yeah, they were started. Yeah. Yeah, even the school that I went to is a nice little private school in Maine. And there was one part, so there was the main buildings that were these really, one of them was like a castle, we called it turrets. It was like a castle, these towers, like a fairyland castle. And then there was a park, kind of like a field with some trees and stuff. And then there was an old shrine-like thing, and then there was a covered walkway, and we called it the Monk's Walk. And so the place used to be like a religious seminary, and that's where the monks would go to basically go on their japa walks, like go and walk and pray and meditate and just, get some fresh air, be spiritual in nature kind of thing. So yeah, almost all of them started off that way. Even University of Florida, there's a big church, you know, there's at the middle of the campus is this big what I call the chapel, right? You been there?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Like when you walk in, there's like the Plaza of the Americas, and then there's this huge church, right? But they don't use it as a church anymore. They just use it as a
Like the shape of building is there.
yeah. You can see that it was built to be a place of worship,
Yeah.
but there's no worship now. They just use it as
The office.
I think it's the music building, something. Anyways, whatever. It's the music department. Okay, sad stuff. So we need to offer spiritual education.
We should look for the ashrams that people come here and this.
Yeah. It is foolish to think that every soul that passes away goes to the same place. Either the soul goes to a place he desires at the time of death, or upon leaving his body, he is forced to accept a position according to his acts in his previous life. The difference between the materialist and the yogi is that a materialist cannot determine his next body, whereas a yogi can consciously attain a suitable body for enjoyment in the higher planets. Throughout his life, the gross materialist who is constantly after sense gratification spends all day earning his livelihood to maintain his family, and at night he wastes his energy in sex enjoyment or else goes to sleep, thinking about all he has done in the daytime. That is the monotonous life of the materialist. Although differently graded as businessmen, lawyers, politicians, professors, judges, coolies, pickpockets, laborers, and so on, materialists all simply engage in eating, sleeping, fearing, and sense gratification, and thus spoil their valuable lives pursuing luxury and neglecting to perfect their lives through spiritual realization. Yeah, so this is the fate of the materialistic people, is that they can't choose where they're going. They're just forced into a body, into a situation according to their karma, basically, according to what they've done in their past life. Okay, Mother Vaidehi, would you like
Yes.
to read?
Yogis, however, try to perfect their lives, and therefore the Bhagavad Gita enjoins that everyone should become a yogi. Yoga is the system for linking the soul in the service of the Lord. Only under superior guidance one can practice such yoga in his life without changing his social position. As already described, a yogi can go anywhere he desires without mechanical help. For a yogi can place his mind and intelligence within the air circulating inside his body. And by practicing the art of breath control, he can mix the air with the air and air that blows all over the universe outside his body. With the help of this universal air, a yogi can travel to any planet and get a body suitable for his atmosphere. We can understand this process by comparing it to the electronic transmission of radio messages. With radio transmitters, sound waves produced at a certain station can travel all over the earth in seconds. But sound is produced from eternal sky, ethereal sky, and as already explained, subtler than the ethereal sky is the mind, the finer than the mind is the intelligence. Spirit is still finer than the intelligence, and by nature it is completely different from matter. Thus, we can just imagine how quickly the spirit soul can travel through the universal atmosphere.
Yes, and Prabhupada was saying, like Krishna said, be a yogi, right? In the end of chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, it says, better than the something, I think I can't remember the exact order, but it's something like better than the empiricist is the ascetic, and better than the ascetic is the something else, and the meditator, and then better than the meditator is the yogi, and then he says, so Arjuna, be a yogi. In all circumstances, be a yogi. Why? Because the yogi has some control over the mind, has control over the senses, and by practicing the processes of yoga, including Prabhupada mentions here breath control, then he can mix the prana within his body with the air that blows all over the universe, with the universal air, and then riding on the the waves of that air, he can travel throughout the universe. So this is an art. I don't know if people can still do this in this age, but I wouldn't count on it and say that. Better is bhakti yoga. Okay. Daniel, let's read the next paragraph.
I just got lost again.
Oh, to come to the stage of manipulating finer elements.
Almost at the end. Not at the sixth paragraph from end.
To come to the stage of manipulating finer elements like mind, intelligence, and spirit, one needs appropriate training, an appropriate mode of life, and appropriate association. Such training depends upon sincere prayers, devotional service, achievement of success in mystic perfection, and the successful merging of oneself in the activities of the soul and supersoul. A gross materialist, whether he be an empiric philosopher, a scientist, a psychologist, or whatever, cannot attain such success through blunt efforts and word jugglery.
You can read another one if you want.
Materialists who perform yajnas or great sacrifices are comparatively better than grosser materialists who do not know anything beyond laboratories and test tubes. The advanced materialists who perform such sacrifices can reach the planet called Vaisvanara, a fiery planet similar to the sun. On this planet, which is situated on the way to Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in the universe, such an advanced materialist can free himself from all traces of vice and its effects. When such a materialist is purified, he can rise to the orbit of the pole star Dhruva. Within this orbit, which is called the Sisamara Chakra, are situated the Aditya Lokas and the Vaikuntha planet within this universe.
Srila Prabhupada really got into this space travel in this purport. Okay. Are you there in the place, Aruna? A purified material.
Purified undergone several penances, and even the major portion of his work is charity to reach such planets as Surbalaka. And if he becomes still more qualified there, he can penetrate still higher orbits and pass through the navel of the universe to reach the planet Maharloka, where sages like Brihu Muni live. In Maharloka, one can live even to the time of the partial annihilation of the universe. This annihilation begins when Anantadeva, from the lowest position of the universe, produces a great blazing fire. The heat of the fire reaches even to Maharloka. Then residents of the Maharloka travel to Brahmaloka, which exists for the twice duration of Parada time.
That's what I was talking about earlier, right? Exactly that. It's from the Bhagavatam. Okay, Pragati?
In Brahmaloka, there is an unlimited number of airplanes that are controlled not by yantra, machine, but by mantra, psychic action. Because of the existence of the mind and intelligence on Brahmaloka, its residents have feelings of happiness and distress, but there is no cause of lamentation from old age, death, fear, or distress. They feel sympathy, however, for the suffering living beings who are consumed in the fire of annihilation. The residents of Brahmaloka do not have gross material bodies to change at death, but they transform their subtle bodies into spiritual bodies and thus enter the spiritual sky. The residents of Brahmaloka can attain perfection in three different ways. Virtuous persons who reach Brahmaloka by dint of their pious work become masters of various planets after the
Resurrection.
Of those who have worshipped Garbhodakshay Vishnu are liberated with Brahma, and those who are pure devotees of push through the covering of the universe and enter the spiritual sky.
So even on Brahmaloka, there are different, this is also described in the Bhagavatam, that on Brahmaloka, there are different levels of advancement, right? Some of them are just very, very pious. Some of them are pure devotees, and some of them are, they worshippers of Lord Vishnu. And so, but they all like Lord Brahma, and so they stick with him, and either they're liberated with him, or they become controllers of planets like Brahma is or was, or if they're pure devotees, then they go back to Godhead. Okay. Divya, the numberless universes.
Thank you. Sorry, one second. The numberless
not-
universes, oh, sorry. The numberless universes exist together in foam-like clusters, and so only some of them are surrounded by the water of the causal ocean. When agitated by the glance of Karnodakshay Vishnu, material nature produces the total elements, which are 8 in number, and which gradually evolve from finer to gross. A part of ego is the sky, a part of which is air, a part of which is fire, a part of which is water, a part of which is earth. Thus, one universe inflates to an area of 4 billion miles in diameter. A yogi who desires gradual liberation must penetrate all the different coverings of the universe, including the subtle coverings of the 3 qualitative modes of material nature. One who does this never has to return to this mortal world.
Yeah, so this is the yogi. It's not so easy for the yogi. The yogi has to do a lot of feats, basically. First of all, just controlling the senses, controlling the mind, focusing, and then, traveling through all the airways, merging the air of life with the totality of air, and then traveling through the air to higher planets, and then Ananta breathes out a bunch of fire, and the fire goes up to Maharloka, and then you got to hightail it out of there and get to Brahmaloka quick. And then even on Brahmaloka, depending on your consciousness, you end up one place or the other. And if you're going if you're going to get out of the material world, you have to pass through all these different layers and the 3 modes of material nature. And it's a journey. It's like a pretty wild road trip. Whereas the devotee, it's very easy because Krishna just comes down on the back of Garuda and swoops down and picks up the devotee and just carries them off to Vaikuntha or Goloka as the devotee desires. So, yeah. Okay, last paragraph, Kritika.
According to Shukdev Goswami, the above description of the material and spiritual skies is neither imaginary nor utopian. The actual facts are recorded in the Vedic hymns, and Lord Vasudev disclosed them to Lord Brahma when Brahma satisfied him. One can achieve the perfection of life only when he has a definite idea of Vaikuntha and the Supreme Godhead. One should always think about and describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for this is recommended in both the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavad Puran, which are 2 authorized commentaries upon the Vedas. Lord Chaitanya has made all these subject matters easier for the fallen people of this age to accept, and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita has therefore presented them for the easy understanding of all concerned.
Yeah, so this is important. Prabhupada says that we can achieve the perfection of life only when we have a definite idea of Vaikuntha and the Supreme Godhead. So if we want to go back to Godhead, if we want to go back to the spiritual world, we need to have a definite idea of what that spiritual world is. And that's why it's described, right, in the scriptures like here. And if we want to go back to Krishna, then we need to have a definite idea of who Krishna is. We need his name, we need address, we need telephone number, we need to know how to recognize the house. Right, like nowadays, you get an address and you put it into your GPS and then you get the directions there. But sometimes you can also look at like the satellite view and see what the actual house looks like, what the area looks like. Then you see, okay, there's a big tree there, there's a whatever, there's a fence, and this is the color of the house, because on the map you don't see those things, but with satellite view you can see that. So, and then you have a very definite directions, you have a definite like visual of what to look for when you get to that address. So just in case there's, sometimes the house numbers are a bit screwy and it's hard to locate the place, which one it is. So like that, we need to know where we're going, and we need to know how to get there, and we need to know who we are trying to see when we get there, right? Otherwise, you don't know Sometimes it's like, you get someone's coming to pick you up from a flight and they're waiting for you at the airport, but you have no idea what they look like, And so you walk off the flight and you're going into the arrivals lounge and there's like 200 people standing there and you're just like, all right, which one is my guy? Like which one is my taxi driver?
Yeah, especially in India.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I always tell them, get a sign, put my name on it and hold it there because then I know that you're for me. And I know you're not some random Indian guy that's just going to take me off and whatever. So, yeah. So it helps, if we know where we're going, we know who it is that we're trying to meet. So when we get there to the gates of Vaikuntha, if we go to Vaikuntha, then we're not going to be bewildered by all the four-armed people there because we're going to know how Lord Vishnu looks different from everybody else, even though everybody looks quite a lot like Vishnu, right? We know the discriminating features and so forth. So, and we know what to do when we get there, right? Because we learn about how the eternal associates of the Lord interact with the Lord in different places and different planets. Like that. Okay, woohoo, we finished this long purport. Finally, text 23. Mathura Dwarakaya Nija Rupa Prakashiya Nana Rupe Vilasaye Chatur Vyuhana. Sneha. Sorry. Sneha. I think I just muted you. By mistake. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Sneha.
Lord Krishna manifests his own form in Mathura and Dwaraka. He enjoys pastimes in various ways by expanding into the quadruple forms.
Okay. Yeah, so Krishna, he's there in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. And for the other places, he expands himself into the different Vishnus to preside over all the other Vaikuntha planets. So now we're going to hear about his expansions. Vasudeva Sankarshana Pradyumna Aniruddha Sarva Chatur Vyuha Amshi Turiya Vishuddha. Love, Prabhu. Are you there with us? Maybe he's just listening. All right, Mother Vaidehi, go ahead.
Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha are the primary quadruple forms, from whom all other quadruple forms are manifested. They are all purely transcendental.
Yeah, so the first expansion from Krishna is Lord Balaram, and then from Lord Balaram expands this Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. This is called the Chatur Vyuha. Okay, 25. Etina loke Krishna kevala lila maya nijagana lana kele ananta samaya. Daniel?
Only these three places, the all-sporting Lord Krishna, performed his endless pastimes with his personal associates.
Yeah, Krishna stays there. Those are his places where he has his abode and his associates and his pastimes. Yeah, Krishna doesn't bother going to Vaikuntha. All right, Paravyoma Madhye Kari Swarupa Prakasha Narayana Rupe Karina Vivida Vilasa.
Performs pastimes in various ways.
Okay, so now we're going to hear about how because Lord Narayan is an expansion of Krishna, but he's different from Krishna. So we're going to hear about that. Swarupa Vigraha Krishnera Kevala Dvibhuja Narayana Rupe Se Tanu Chatur Bhuja Shanka Chakra Gada Padma Maheshwarya Maya Shri Bunila Shakti Anracharana Sevaya.
Krishna's own form had only two hands, but in the form of Lord Narayan, he has four hands. Lord Narayan holds a conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower, and he is full of great opulence. The Shri, Bhu, and Nila energies serve at his lotus feet. In the Ramanuja and Madhava sects of Vaishnavism, there are extensive descriptions of the Shri, Bhu, and Nila energies. In Bengal, the Nila energy is sometimes called the Lila energy. These three energies are employed in the service of the of four-handed Narayana in Vaikuntha, relating how three of Alvars, namely Bhuta Yogi, Sari Yogi, and Bran Yogi, saw Narayan in person when they took shelter at the house of a Brahmana in the village of Gehali. The Prapanamrit of the Sri Sampradaya describes Narayan as follows. They saw the lotus-eyed Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, mounted on Garuda and holding Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, to his chest. He resembled a bluish rain cloud with flashing lightning, and in two of his four hands he held a conch and disc. His arms stretched down to his knees, and all his beautiful limbs were smeared with sandalwood and decorated with glittering ornaments. He wore yellow clothes, and by either side stood his energies Bhumi and Nila. There is the following reference to the Shri, Bhu, and Nila energies in the Shito Upanishad, Mahalakshmir Devashashya, Bhinam Bhina Rupa.
You can skip if you want. It's a lot of prose.
Mahalakshmi, the supreme energy of the Lord, is experienced in different ways. She is divided into material and spiritual potencies, and in both features, she acts as the willing energy, creative energy, and the internal energy. The willing energy is again divided into three, namely Shri, Bhu, and Nila. Quoting from the revealed scriptures in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita 4.6, Madhavacharya has stated that Mother Material nature, which is conceived of as the illusory energy Durga, has three divisions, namely Shri, Bhu, and Nila. She is the illusory energy for those who are weak in spiritual strength, because such energies are created energy of Lord Vishnu, although each energy has no direct relationship with the unlimited. They are subordinate of the Lord because the Lord is the master of all energies. In his Bhagavad Sandarbha, text 23, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu states, the Padma Puran refers to the eternally auspicious abode of Godhead, which is full in all opulences, including the energies Shri, Bhu, and Nila. The Mahasamhita, which discuss the transcendental name and form of Godhead, also mentions Durga as the potency of the super soul in relationship with the living entities. The internal potency acts in relation with his personal affairs, and the material potency manifests the three modes. Quoting elsewhere from the revealed scriptures, he states that Shri is the energy of Godhead that maintains the cosmic manifestation. Bhu is the energy that creates the cosmic manifestation, and Neela, Durga, is the energy that destroys the creation. All these energies act in relation with the living beings, and thus they are together called Jiva Maya.
Okay. So, yeah, Prabhupada is quoting different acharyas to try to get some glimpse of understanding into these Shri, Bhu, and Nila energies that are mentioned here that serve Lord Vishnu and Vaikuntha. Okay, text 29. Yadyapi kevala tanra krida matra dharma tatapi jivere kripaya kare eka karma. Divya?
Although his pastimes are his only characteristic functions, by his causeless mercy he performs one activity for the fallen souls.
By his causeless mercy, he performs one activity. What is that one activity? Let's find out. Salokya samipya sarsti sarupya prakara chari mukti diya kare jivera nistara. Kritika?
He delivers the fallen living entities by offering them the four kinds of liberation: Salokya, Samipya, Shrashti, and Sarupya. Purport. There are two kinds of liberated souls: those who are liberated by the favor of the Lord, and those who are liberated by their own effort. One who gets liberation by his own effort is called impersonalist, and he merges into the glaring effulgence of the Lord, the Brahma Jyoti. But devotees of the Lord who qualify themselves for liberation by devotional service are offered 4 kinds of liberation, namely Salokya, status equal to that of the Lord; Samipya, constant association with the Lord; Srashti, opulence equal to that of the Lord; and Sarupya, features like those of the Lord.
Yeah, so the Lord's characteristic is that he has all kinds of wonderful pastimes. But then there's another thing, in addition to his own leelas, is that by his causeless mercy, he acts in ways to give liberation to the fallen conditioned souls, one of these 4 kinds of liberation.
These we see on the Vaikuntha planet.
What's that?
On the Vaikuntha planet.
Yeah, we're basically talking about Narayan here. Text 31. Brahma sayujya muktera taha nahi gati Vaikuntha bahire hayata sabara stiti. Sneha. Oh, we have a couple more here. Sneha?
Yeah. Those who attain Brahma Sayujya liberation cannot gain entrance into Vaikuntha. Their residence is outside the Vaikuntha planets.
Yes, so this sayujya means you merge into the Brahmajyoti. You become a particle of light in the dazzling effulgence of the spiritual sky. So you just stay stuck there in space. You can't actually go have residence on any of the spiritual planets, and you don't get a spiritual form, and you don't have any service to the Lord, and you don't have any interactions with other liberated souls on those planets. So that's generally not desirable, especially for devotees. Okay. Vaikuntha bahire eka jyotirmaya mandala Krishnara angera prabha parama ujvala.
Outside the Vaikuntha planet is the evidence, which consists of the supremely bright rays of the body of Lord Krishna.
So that's what the Brahmajyoti is the bright rays emanating from the body of Krishna. Siddha loka namatara prakriti para Chitswarupa tanha nahi chit shakti vikara.
That is called Siddha. Essence is spiritual, but it does not have spiritual varieties.
Yeah, so this is a different, we're talking, there's Siddhaloka in the material world, which is a material planet where yogis who have perfected their mystic siddhis go, and everybody there has all kinds of mystic siddhis. Like they can fly in the sky, they can just get whatever they want, they can make themselves small, they can make themselves big. So it's kind of like a pretty amazing planet where a lot of surprising things happen. But yeah, they all have these mystic powers. But this Siddhaloka is the spiritual world, which is he's saying beyond the material nature, and which where people who have perfected themselves spiritually go. In other words, liberated souls go. Text 34. Surya mandalayena bahire nirvishesha vitare surya rata adi savishesha.
Outside the Vaikuntha, the whole of Krishna, which is called Paravyoma, is the glaring effulgence of Krishna's bodily space. This is called Brahma Jyoti. The transcendental reason of that effulgence is called Siddha Loka or Brahma Loka. When impersonalists achieve liberation, they merge into that Brahma Loka effulgence. This transcendental reason is undoubtedly spiritual, but it contains no manifestation of spiritual activities or variegated. It is compared to that flow of the sun. Without the sun's flow is the sphere of the sun, where one can experience all sorts of varieties.
Yeah, I heard before. I think we read previously. It was mentioned that there's in the material world also there's a Brahmaloka, and there's also a place or situation in the spiritual world also called Brahmaloka, because Brahma is like Brahman, means spirit. So it's like Brahman Loka, where people who want to merge into Brahman, that's where they go. They go to this Brahma Loka, which is Brahman Loka in the spiritual sky. Okay, this homogeneous effulgence, like the homogeneous effulgence around the sun. Text 35. Kama dveshad bhayat snehad Yata bhaktyeshvare manaha aveshya tad agam hitva bhavastad gatim gata.
As to the Lord, one can attain his abode. Many have attained that goal by abandoning their sinful activities and absorbing their minds in the Lord through lust, envy, fear, or affection. As the powerful sun by its glowing rays can purify all kinds of impurities, so the all spiritual personality of Godhead can purify all material qualities in a person he attracts. Even if one is attracted by Godhead in the mode of material lust, such attraction is converted into spiritual love of Godhead by His grace. Similarly, if one is related to the Lord in fear and animosity, he also becomes purified by the spiritual attraction of the Lord. Although God is great and the living entity small, they are spiritual individuals. And therefore, as soon as there is a reciprocal exchange by the living entity's free will,
Go ahead. Is it Joel? Oh, okay. Okay.
once the great spiritual being attracts the small living entity, thus freeing him from all material bondage. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 7:130.
Okay, thank you.
2 minutes.
So, yeah, there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that says that whatever way we approach the Lord, even if it seems to be for material reasons, like, for example, like Kubja, when Krishna was passing through Mathura, then this woman, Kubja, hunchback woman, she saw Krishna and she's just like, oh my God, he's so attractive, he's so beautiful. And she had lustful feelings towards Krishna. And anyways, Krishna purified her. Or, you know, we have the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj that he approached the Lord with material desires, and then Krishna purified him. He got free from all of his material desires, and he became a pure. Kubja also became a pure devotee. And even Kamsa, he was approaching Krishna with envy, always absorbing his mind in Krishna, but with fear and envy. And because he was always thinking of Krishna, he didn't become a devotee in this life, but he got killed by Krishna, and so he got liberated. So, like that, Krishna somehow or other purifies everyone who approaches him, regardless of the reason why they approach him. So we shouldn't, you know, take advantage of this verse and be like, all right, I'm just gonna hate Krishna, and then I'll become pure anyway. So, but we should try to approach him with devotion, and then it's a lot easier.
I think this also my God, why don't we have pure desire? And then we can approach that, okay, even if we have Krishna will help us.
Yeah. Yeah, so as long as we just keep turning to Krishna, we're going to be fine, whatever the reason is. So we don't need to worry. We shouldn't think, oh, I have material desires, so I should just stay away from Krishna until I get rid of these. No, we're not going to be able to get rid of them without Krishna's help. So we should just bring everything to Krishna and be like, Krishna, I have this desire. Either please fulfill it or remove it. Divya?
Like you were saying, it's not that we should like take advantage of this verse and like use it to our material advantage, but I guess like for personalities like Putana or other personalities that were liberated by Krishna killing them, it's
Yeah.
not that they all of a sudden he killed them and then they got love of Godhead and went to Goloka, right? Like I know with Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, that was a different story. They agreed to taking birth as demons so that they could get it over with and go back home as soon as possible. But for other personalities that were killed, it's not like entrance to Goloka Vrindavan requires wanting a personal loving relationship with Krishna and his associates. It's not
Yeah.
just being purified or getting purification. It's way more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that when Krishna kills someone like Kamsa, then, you know, he gets liberation, but he might, generally the demons go to the Brahmajyoti and then they have to come back down to the earth because Brahmajyoti is not like a place where you can stay very long because it's too boring and too lonely. So they have to come back to earth. And then from there, then he's going to, you know, have a landing into a kind of a soft landing. After Brahmajyoti, they'll come and be born in, you know, a religious family, a pious religious family, and they'll get some chance of spiritual education.
What's Brahma Jyoti again? Is that the
The
in the sky?
in the spiritual sky, just the light.
So that you say that for
You can't.
okay.
Yeah,
So bad.
no.
Can be light.
Yeah, so that's where the demons go through. Yeah, that's one of the arguments that the acharyas give. It's like the demons go there. Do you want to go to the same place that the demons go when they get killed by Krishna? Like that is not the ultimate destination of even the demons. Right? Yeah, that's kind of what it is a transcendental timeout. Just go there and space out, literally,
So actually,
bro. Divya?
Can you repeat that, Prabhupada Priya? Where do the demons go? They go to Brahmaloka?
They go to the
After
Brahmajyoti. They go to the
Brahmajyoti after getting liberated
killed
by
by
Krishna.
Krishna.
Okay.
Yeah. Not all of them, but generally, like the actual, we're not talking about Jai and Vijay because they were devotees. That was a special Leela. But the actual demons, you know, like, yeah, like Srinavarta and Agasur. Well, some of them, yeah, they're different. It depends on the individual. It depends on the backstory. There's a lot of factors that come into play. But generally, a lot of the demons go to the Brahmajyoti. Okay, thank you. So we'll continue tomorrow. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Go